With recently doing a Dex only run in Nioh 2 and having a great time with it, I figured why not do another one, and this time I wanted to change things up a bit. The last run was more ranged combat, so this time I wanted to be up close and personal with the bosses, and what better stat to do this with than courage. So I'm here today to tell you my story of beating Nioh 2 while only leveling courage. Also, make sure to like and subscribe if you want to see more crazy runs like these, or just like seeing me suffer. I also recently created a second channel, so if you like to see the best moments or highlights from a stream, check out Arcane Light. I also have a VODs channel for those who just want the raw footage. With that said, let's get into the rules for this run. Rule number 1, I can only level courage and no other stat. Rule number 2, limited yokai form and soul core abilities. Yokai form can make almost every boss a walk in the park, and soul core abilities can make staggering bosses extremely easy. So I decided they were not allowed in boss fights. Number 3, no hidden tea house until I beat Tata Rimoki. Once unlocking the tea house, it's available from the beginning of any new character, so to keep the runs consistent, I will only be allowed to use it until I would normally get it. Rule number 3, no summons. And lastly, rule number 4, beat all main story mission bosses, which does include the DLC. Nioh 2 has a lot of minor side bosses, which I did beat, but for the telling of the story, I will just stick with the main ones, and only talk about the side bosses that had a major impact on the run. With the rules out of the way, let's get this run started. At the very start, I get to pick 2 weapons, but not only that, depending on which ones you pick will give you a +1 in that stat that weapon specializes in. So for this run, I picked the Spear for the Constitution bonus, and Hatches for the skill bonus. The reason for doing this is to get those stats to 6 to help with the potential armor that I can wear, since in Nioh you need 2 specific stats to wear armor, and Constitution and Skill are reoccurring stats needed for light and medium armor. For the Guardian Spirit, I went with Makami for the Strength bonus for the same reason as the weapon choices. With all that settled, I go to the shrine to use the DLC boons to get me a Tonfa, which will be this run's weapon of choice since it has the highest scaling in courage, and who better to test the Tonfas out on than Gozuki himself. Off the bat, I noticed Tonfas are best at destroying enemies' ki, but lack a bit in the damage compartment, which does play an issue for a few future boss fights, but don't worry, I eventually get a pretty decent build going later on to help with that. Right after that fight, I get the Wild Lion skill, which has me twirling my Tonfas all around. Great for finishing off weakened enemies, or more importantly for crowd control when fighting multiple enemies at once. Also during this mission, I got the Demon Dances, which will have my character reposition themselves when ki pulsing, allowing me to dodge attacks while doing it. It will play a more important role for a future skill. I then level my courage up, which will increase my Tonfa's damage, but also increase my ki recovery speed and lightning resistance. With that done, I was ready for Kazuki's twin brother, Mizuki. When normally fighting Mizuki, it takes a minute to reduce his ki to 0, but not when you're using the Tonfas with burst counters. The great thing about this, when an enemy is at 0 ki, you can constantly stagger them while hitting them, which is the best time to get long combos in to try and deal as much damage as possible before the enemy recovers, making this fight easier than I expected to constantly stunlock Mizuki for an easy first try. After the fight, I of course run into Tokichiro, who shares his guardian spirit, Masaru. The thing I never realized before about Masaru is that he has the special effect Imbue Purity on strong attacks, meaning when using strong attacks, aka heavy attacks, it will apply Purity buildup, which is fantastic since you don't need a talisman to buff your weapon to do this. Extremely useful in this run since Tonfas have a really good strong attacks. With Masaru being the new Guardian Spirit, I move on to the next mission to get a Ninja Lock and Magic Lock, to make the bad calls on getting the Tiger Running Scroll and the Lightning Talisman. The Tiger Running Scroll is great for moving fast, but it would have been wiser to get Poison Gallnut Broth, since it would have been actually useful for the upcoming boss fight. I thought at the time Lightning Talisman would have been a smart move since when it procs it applies the Electrified effect, which reduces attack and movement speed, except I didn't know the next boss is super resistant to it. While in my blissful ignorance, I level my Tonfa proficiency a bit more to get Shove, which can push back lightweight enemies while dealing good ki damage, and I also pick up Crimson Lotus for a quick thrust attack after a strong attack. With all those things acquired, I level my courage to 20 and muster the courage to take on Eninra. where I learned painfully that he has the highest resistance to lightning, which honestly I don't think really matters since he smacked me around 3 more times due to my overzealousness to be right on top of him. Finally, on my 5th go around, I got smart and used the Feral Burst counter thanks to Masaru on a Nioh's tornado attack, which is probably the best burst counter for this attack. With this, it made it easy to get the boss's ki to 0 to then stance break him with strong attacks while applying Purified on him and occasionally getting a grapple off as well. So with that start, plus getting some water splashed on him and a bit of tactical pressure, Interim went down. We could just ignore the fact I was on death's door. Definitely won't become a recurring theme in this run. Something I didn't mention in my last run is titles. So in Nioh, you can earn titles by completing just general tasks and earning prestige points to give yourself permanent buffs like earning more Emerita or increasing your anima bar. In general, I just focus on getting ki, life, ki recovery speed, elixir efficacy, and gold earned. With that said, I decided to craft myself some stronger Tonfas for 2 seconds later to find some better ones. Lesson learned, only craft when you really need to, but a quick lesson for those new to Nioh is that there are yokai doors that if you do the right emote, it will let you pass. The way you can find out the right emote is by checking the grave sites nearby to see which emote failed, and then try the other 2 to successfully let you pass. Now, you only get 2 shots at this, so if you fail both times, you will have to fight the door. Speaking of fighting, I pick up the Pulverize skill, which can be used after Demon Dance to do a flurry of blows. Hands down, the best skill to stance break human enemies. Trust me, it makes some human bosses a joke. With now having Pulverize, I pulverize the last snake statue to take on Yatsu no Kami. So, funny enough, Lightning Talisman is actually really good here since Yatsu is weak to lightning, which should have made this fight super easy with Big Boy being slowed down, except for the fact when it summoned the Dark Realm, it removes that electrified effect. On top of this, I got caught up in the sauce that is the Tonfa's Endless Barrage gameplay and forgot to kill the snake arms beforehand, leading me to die. On round 2, I was much smarter this time and made sure to take out the snake arms before Yatsu summons the Dark Realm, making stance breaking much easier, allowing me to get grapples off for some decent damage to then finish the fight off with a good shove and a slap to the face. With Yatsu defeated, I rescue my father. For those who do not know, the main character is half yokai and half human. So this stud muffin right here shacked up with a female demon to have the main character. My reward for rescuing my father is his guardian spirit, Shirohami, which has a really good attack multiplier and some good special effects, but sadly I won't be equipping it until later. So for the time being, I got my courage to 40, do the Ninja Dojo course to get a ninja skill point to get poison gallnut broth, allowing me to coat my weapon in poison to be able to poison the enemy. Not only will the poison deal tick damage, but with having the Yatsu Soul Core, I will deal 15% more damage to enemies that are poison, thanks to the special effect Melee Damage vs Poison Enemy. This was my plan for No Brows to help with increase my damage output on him, but unfortunately I failed at it pretty hard and ended up getting grabbed, where No Brow shows off his beautiful smile. So the plan switched to using water since Yoshimatsu is weak to it. It was also this fight that I realized Pulverize can easily stance break human bosses, making grapples or final blows super easy to get off. No Brows got lucky I didn't know this beforehand because this would have been a really short encounter like some later human fights. After slapping Yoshimatsu in the face with my wooden sticks, I crafted myself some new armor to then temper my gauntlets to get faster winded recovery to help me recover faster after being stunned. I then pick up Tiger Bite skill, which is a lunging uppercut attack, a great gap closer when it comes to fighting human type enemies to get some combos in. Not really going to help me out with Kama Itachi though, with him being a yokai weasel on crack. This was actually a fight I thought I was going to really struggle with how fast Kama Itachi can be, but ended up finding out Tonfas are actually really good at mitigating damage when blocking in high stance. Anytime the flying weasel came at me, I would just block it with only a marginal amount of ki loss. Combine this with Kyle Traps to apply reduced movement, Feral Burst counters allow me to get hits off, with a hint of courage to charge on in with Tonfas ablazing, made for a pretty chill first try. I would also like to point out that there are squirrel yokais, but we never get to fight them. I wonder why that is. After contemplating what squirrel yokai would taste like, I finally equipped Shirohami, got the Masterful Slice active skill, and equipped it to Demon Dance in hopes it would be applied to Pulverize. No clue if it does or not. I also learned on a submission that I need to be careful about doing long combos because I can actually knock the enemy back up from the ground, missing a grapple or final blow, and giving them a chance to smack me. I then took that lesson and threw it out the window apparently because I made the same mistake on Yoshitatsu. Due to this, he ended up going into his yokai form early, and unfortunately it was Phantom form. Phantom form is hard to get close to since it can attack from a distance, which isn't great when you're using Tonfas. So I decided to fight fire with fire and use my own rage weapon to attack him. After a few arrows, Yoshi transformed back into a human. Upon seeing that, I took full advantage of it to pressure with some poison Tonfas to proc poison, which then procs Yatsu's soul core effect to deal even more damage. He got scared near the end and transformed, but I knocked him out of that real quick to finish my evil twin brother off in style. My reward for beating my brother is that I can now have 2 guardian spirits on at the same time, which will be very helpful for some future boss fights. I then get my courage to level 55, craft some Lord Tonfas since their main special effect is increasing melee ki damage by 5%, and craft some armor that also increases my strong attack ki damage, making my build revolve around heavy attacks to deplete my enemy's ki quickly to then grapple them to death. Sadly, this isn't too helpful when you're having to fight 2 bosses at the same time. Did y'all know in the mission The Shiftling's Wise Judgment, if you bypass Shibata and Ninja Turtle Bro by going down a hole in the house, you will then have to fight both of them at the very end of the mission, because I sure as hell didn't. Fortunately, they can hurt each other to the point of one of them dying, but that didn't stop me from dying 4 times myself. Really, this fight wasn't too bad. I just had to let Hachisuka kill Shibata, and once Ninja Bro was alone, I just had to wait for his burst attack to finish to then punish him with some strong attacks into grapples to the point of killing him. After that fight, I learned the skill Focus Strike, or as I like to call it, the 1-inch punch, allowing the user to charge a strong attack to launch them forward with a powerful strike, which is not very useful when fighting a giant yokai owl. So here's where I hit my first mini roadblock. I didn't have any issues at all reducing Tachiramoki's ki to 0. What I did have an issue with was the fact I was practically tickling the demonic bird with my Tonfas. Seriously, the damage was super low, and on top of that, I noticed the second bar that holds the boss's ki, which is called the max ki bar, wasn't being depleted that much. Which is an issue since you need that bar to be reduced to 0 as well to grapple a yokai. I was spoiled before with the Kusarigama and yokai abilities because they could absolutely destroy the max ki bar. So my only real way of reducing this bar quickly is with burst counters, but that wasn't my only issue in this fight. Anytime Tatori would summon the Dark Realm, his stupid red orb would spam ghost attacks at me while Tatori was also attacking me. Add the key recovery speed penalty that happens in the Dark Realm as well, and it was a recipe for my defeat. I ended up dying 8 times, but I was about to throw a wrench in the old owlboy's face. I learned from the bestiary from my other game file that he is weak to fire, so with now using fire talismans, I could deal some decent fire damage, which is not only great for hurting Tatori, but also annihilating his red orbs, which upon destroying them also damages his max ki bar, letting me then grapple him. Once running out of fire talismans, I then used the purity jars to help break the red orbs. Combining this with burst counters, I was finally able to beat this pain in the ass. After this fight, I realized I was focusing way too much on ki damage when Tonfas were already good at that, so I crafted some exorcist gear to help with dealing more damage to yokai. On top of that, I found I could craft white bone spirit Tonfas, which are yokai weapons. Yokai weapons have corruption imbued on them, leading to the status effect corruption. Corruption causes enemies to take 30% ki damage from all sources, and you also gain ki back whenever you're attacking a corrupt target. When the sentience gauge fills up, the weapon will deal 30% more melee damage, and the last strong attack will shoot a corruption beam attack. Yokai weapons are very good against humans, as you can see with the Obsidian Samurai. What's even crazier is when a yokai is affected by corruption, they take more max ki damage. Fun fact, I didn't know any of this besides the fact that enemies take more ki damage. If I would have known I got ki back when attacking corrupted enemies and dealt more max ki damage to corrupted yokai, I would have used yokai weapons way more than I did. Good thing I did use it on Mogura though. With already knowing Mogura's moveset well from the previous run, I knew to punish him after his jump attack, his range attacks, and lastly his grab attack, making it quite easy to reduce his ki to 0. The only tricky thing I would say I had to do was switch Guardian Spirits between being in the Dark Realm or not. When in the Dark Realm, I would use Feral Burst counter on Mogura's multi-slash burst attack, and when not in the realm, I would use the Brute counter to stop his uppercut attack. With just these few things, I was able to get the first try. So at this point in time, I actually picked up a few skills I really wasn't using. The good thing about Nioh though is that you can go to the dojo and reset your skill points in any tree. The downside here is that it resets the entire tree, when I only wanted to change like 5 skill points. I hope in Nioh 3 they take a page out of Kazan where you can freely change between skill nodes. It would make experimenting and craft building a lot easier. With that said, I picked up Heavily Chain and Devastation. Devastation is basically Crimson Lotus but with both Tofas, and Heavily Chain is a flurry of strikes and probably the Tofa's best quick attack for dealing large ki damage. While doing some side missions, I decided to give cannons a try since they have damage scaling and courage, and I was blown away with how good they are and how fun they are to use. It was extremely satisfying to set the cannon up and make some yokai explode. Once done playing with my cannon, I bullied Honda for his Spirit Guardian Shinroku. Shinroku has some good defense perks with animo bonuses on guard and life drain on strong attacks. But the thing I really wanted was for the 15% lightning damage increase, since I was using lightning talismans a lot to help slow down enemies, and 15% more damage sounded like a great bonus to that. Also at this time, I got damage boost courage in the samurai tree and equipped it to devastation. I then proceeded to blow up some yokai, level my courage to 76, and kill a Namahagi for his soul core. Namahagi's main special effect is dealing 5.2% more damage to enemies with melee attacks when they are out of ki, and with Tofas being great for keeping all enemies at 0 ki, this soul core was a no-brainer. With all that done, it was time for Nagamasa. With Nagamasa being weak to lightning, I figured going in with Shinroku was a smart move, but I didn't take into account that my second Guardian Spirit was Shirohami, which means both my burst counters were brute and Nagamasa's most common burst attack is an air dive. So after attempting this strategy twice, I got smart and switched out Shirohama for Marasu for the Feral Burst counter, which made Nagamasa much easier to deal with. Another thing I have been using in this run is Sacred Water. Sacred Water increases speed recovery, which is great for keeping pressure on the boss or helping mitigate the ki penalty in the Dark Realm. So with easy burst counters and some spiked water, I was able to pressure Nagamasa to death. We then find out that the yokai man was possessing him this entire time, showing how horrible of a being he is. It would be a shame to find out later on that we are related. After that tango with possessed Nagamasa, Bushy Brows challenged me to a honorable fight. So I shot him in the head at the start to get a jump on him. Come to find out, Karma was real quick to jump my ass for that. But I survived to kick his bushy ass. Don't ask me how I know that. My reward for this was his Guardian Spirit, Tenjin Kujaku, which will play a major role later on in this run. I then crafted some level 70 gauntlets to change out from my level 31s that I forgot I even had on. Then Sayaka decided to show off some sniping skills which Dilf Bushibra wasn't too fond of, so he let me have his other Spirit Guardian Hayobishin. Also at this time I found out I could hide my ranged weapons on my back, which is a nice option to have because I find it looks better when fighting to not have the ranged weapons covering everything up. I then kill a Ubumi for its soul core, which its main special effect is increasing ki damage with strong attacks by 1.6%, and with focusing on primarily strong attacks, every little bit helps. Especially when I'll be taking on Magoichi, who I thought was going to be an easy first try since I was a smart cookie and brought some shurikens to knock him out of the air, except I got overly confident at the end, allowing Magoichi to stagger me, and he decided this was a WWE match and full on flipped me onto my head. You would think that bonk on my head would have knocked some sense into me, but nope. Instead, I said fuck that and put all my chips on non-stop pressure to the point of after beating him, his Guardian Spirit's fireball attacks almost took me out. What I can say, it takes a bit of courage and hard-headedness to gamble and then win. I then leveled my courage to 80 to take on Gayuki, and this time decided to fight him like a normal giant Dark Souls boss and just go unlocked and attack his mid to backside, where I just ignored getting constantly hit to the point of running out of elixirs and just kept attacking until I came out on top. Because when you're using Tonfas, all you need to do is attack and don't think. With Gayuki Tonfa to death, I beat an old man senseless to get further access into the samurai tree, max out passage to the afterlife for a total of 9% grapple damage increase, and equipped Kagawani thinking the 15% increase to strong attack ki damage would help with Kasha, which it did for the most part until it didn't. Another good skill that Kagawani had for this fight is Tenacity. Tenacity will stop the burn that is applied to me from killing me. Extremely helpful for this fight and pretty much saved the winning attempt. I also found out Kasha can hurt her Beyblades and the ads that she summons. So I take my comment from the last video back. The fact that you can just use her to take them out makes having them in the fight not so bad. Still didn't stop me from dying on round 2 though. So the strategy was to go into the fight with Purification and Sacred Water already procced so that I could try and DPS her as fast as possible to 0 ki. Once that was done, I would switch to using water talismans that I had picked up along the way to apply saturation on her. So with saturation, Kagawani's strong ki damage buff, and slapping Kasha in the face with my thick sticks, it was looking pretty good for me. Until I got smacked to the point of having no more elixirs and procced with burn. I would be lying if I didn't mentally give up at this moment because mathematically I should have died here. But somehow I didn't. I was able to survive long enough to get a burst counter with Phantom to get the opportunity to kill Kasha. To say I was flabbergasted by the situation would be a massive understatement. But hey, a win is a win, and I'll take it. With that pussycat all pounded out, I try out Hyobishin since it gives the damage bonus based on your Emerita gauge. That 4.5% damage increase feels nice. I then crafted some Quaking Tonfa since their main special effect is 4% increased damage from melee attacks, and made sure to equip 2 fan accessories that both have 2% ki recovery speed, give me a total of 4%. I then remembered about the hidden tea house and joined the Sho clan since it gives increased damage and defense for Tonfas. Apparently by this point in the run, I was using talismans so much I actually unlocked the Adapt mission for magic, giving me access to more magic skills like Barrier, which will be very helpful later on in the run. After that mission, I chat with Obsidian Samurai to get his Guardian Spirit, Atlas Bear. Once done chatting, I unlocked the Demon Dash and Demon Fang skills. Demon Dash allows the player to dash forward doing an attack after pressing forward on the analog stick while ki pulsing. This allows the player to keep pressure on moving enemies. Demon Fang can only be used on a human enemy with low ki after a Demon Dash or Demon Dance. Great for kneeing the fuck out of some low lives. Too bad I can't do this to Ryomen because I sure as hell wanted to. So last time I fight Ryomen, he was a bit of a joke due to range attacks, but this time he definitely got his revenge on me. Not just once, not just twice, but 3 times this giant two-faced spinning bastard got me. The ticket to this fight was using the Tonfa strong attacks that launched me forward, followed by a heavily chain to actually get behind Ryomen. Interestingly, this happens because you can actually go through his legs, which allows you to get behind him. I would also make sure to apply Purification on him to make his ki run out faster. Once Purification was applied, I would then switch to Lightning to get Electrified and Confusion off, making him slower while taking more damage. This was working well until near the end it started to get a bit sketchy, so I decided to just finish off the big boy with the cannon. Afterwards, we had some friendly fire from Tokichiro, making me have to fight old allies like Maria, who I thought I was going to first try this time since I was using the best weapon for killing humans, and this damn mofo had a 1 HP in a dream moment and took me out. So I went full balls to walls on him the next round, attacking non-stop, getting grapples and final blows back to back, to the point that Maria could not take it anymore, which means I now have to take on the hardest boss in the base game, Yokai Shibata. You know, at first I thought this was going to be different. I had a pretty good first go at him, and on my 4th attempt I was only 1 good combo away from winning until I died. With seeing that, I figured it would only take a few more tries. I died a total of 29 times. Due to dying so many times, I ran out of divine rice and gear to offer to get more rice, so I couldn't buy any more elixirs, and I was not in the mood to grind enemies to get more, which means I had to beat Shibata with only using 3 elixirs. So I gamered up and started to lock in to figure out how to beat this boss. My tonfas were just tickling Shibata when I was in mid to low stance, so I had to mainly focus on using high stance strong attacks into heavily chained to then stance switch into mid stance to get the damage buff, to then switch back into high stance to deal okay damage. Especially once Shibata was at 0 ki, I needed to get as many combos off as possible to take advantage of the 5% damage increase from the soul core. Now, the best times to attack are after he does a grab attack, after he summons the boar, but wait a second before attacking because sometimes he'll do a burst attack right after, but after a few seconds, if he doesn't do it, it's safe to attack. You can attack anytime after his axe combo, and lastly after his charged attack finishes, but be careful because he can do a grab attack right afterwards. Now, you can also attack him when he does his twirling attack where he throws his hatches and they spin around him, but I decided this go around to be a bit more safe and not do that. Besides those few things, I made sure to use caltraps to reduce his movement, and near the end used lightning to electrify him to slow him down while doing some extra damage, to finally win on my 30th attempt. After that arduous fight, I earned the right to take on the Tonfa Master Challenge, and come to find out that master is Hanzo, who decided to 1-inch punch me to death. Taking the hint from the master, I then 1-punch Hanzo to death, allowing me to access Mystic Arts, which I went with Apocalypse since it will increase my damage the longer I combo an enemy. The other Mystic Art is Kanagi, which allows the player to cancel out of a demon dance by pressing R1. This is great for stopping mid-combo to go into a grapple. Kanagi also has iframes like Demon Dance, so you can actually use it fast enough to dodge attacks. Professionals at this game can use this skill in some insane situations. I also found out after this that weapons have hidden skills that you can get, and for the Tonfas, that is the Storm of Strikes. You can get this skill from the Tonfa Hanzo fight. Storm of Strikes is an attack that has the player move to the right hand side, dealing 3 massive blows to the enemies. It's a shame I didn't get to use this in this run. It looked really fun to use, but now I know to look for those types of skills for the next run. After getting my Mystic Art, I also made the smart move of switching my Guardian Spirit to Tenjin Kugaku. Tenjin Kugaku gives my elemental buffs 10% more time to be up, but more importantly, the special effect stance-based Amrita bonus. This effect gives you a buff depending on which stance you are in. For high stance, it's a damage bonus, for mid stance, it's a defense bonus, and for low stance, it's a key recovery speed bonus. For this run though, it's mainly used for high stance for the damage bonus. My second spirit is Atlas Bear for the life drain on grapples. Also from this point on in the Tonfa tree, I just put the rest of my points into melee mastery for increased damage. With doing a few side missions, I got the Yin Yang Tonfas, which have water imbued on them, allowing me to get some extra damage in while attacking, plus making it easier to get saturated off. Which means I am ready for my boy, Toki. Don't worry, this won't be a long fight. Well, fuck me, he can parry. Alright, then I could play that game. So I shot Toki in the head and then took full advantage of him. Sounds very necrophiliac out of context, but either way, it was a very short fight. Then Toki gets possessed, as usual, everything goes to shit, and even the yokai squirrels have gone berserk, and I need to save Ninja Turtle Bro, which wasn't too hard since I already learned how to fight him like 50 hours back. My reward for saving Bro was getting my courage to 99 and fighting Bochi, who got me twice, but as stated in my last video, he's just a gimmick boss, so you just need to break the crystals to beat him. Nothing new here. With that fight done, I get to meet my mother, who wants me to stop Koji, which I was already doing that, Ma, you didn't need to remind me. I also found out I could craft a golden Sachi helmet, which will increase my water damage by 10%, so I crafted that immediately. On top of this, I found out in the Shiftling tree you can get a custom active skill that imbues one of your skills with an element, and I made sure to get Arcana of Water and put it on Heavily Chain. So now when I use that skill, it will deal even higher water damage, which works out perfectly because the next boss is Shuten Doji, who is weak to water. Combine this with Purity for some confusion to knock Doji Coin out of Ki, to then pressure him with Heavily Chain into Pulverize to trigger Apocalypse for some hefty damage. Mix this with Shuten being slow and having a lot of attacks you can just run around, made for a pretty chill fight. Until near the end where it got a bit heated, but I was able to save it to get the first try. With Shuten defeated, I was able to go on a side mission and rescue Muramasa. This one must be like the super great grandfather to the Muramasa and Ninja Gaiden. But with him saved, I can now use remodeling, which in my last video I mistaked for refashion. Remodeling will allow the player to change the scaling on their weapon, but the weapon needs to be a +1, which isn't really possible to get on an NG run, except if you go to the tea house, you can use glory points to gamble on getting a rare weapon, and Lord and behold, you can get a +1. Meaning I can now have an A scaling and courage on Tofas, which is just a shame that the next boss has to be Lady Asakabi. This time around, I went for using my range weapons to see if I could just kill her that way, but I didn't have enough ammo to do so. So I was forced to wail on her furry tentacles until she went down for me to smack her in the eye to the point of killing her. I then crashed Lady Asakabi's husband's funeral party to teach him a lesson about not fucking houses. Apparently he strongly disagrees. Yokai Tokichiro really wasn't bad. All I had to do was wait for his Fire Slam attack or his Fire Lightning Slash attacks to get behind him. Well, I say that, but I got hit multiple times to the point of not having any elixirs at all, but RNG was on my side because at the end he just kept doing the Fire Slam attack over and over, letting me get hits in to the point of killing him. But I'm not done yet, because now I have to fight Koji, who definitely has the Sharingan. I knew this fucker was from the Leaf Village. The only reason I lost twice is because he could see my moves before they were coming. Definitely not a skill issue and cope. First phase Koji isn't too rough without his clones. He's fairly fragile, making it pretty easy to lower his HP bar. Now, when the clones came out, that is a whole nother story. What I had to do in this moment was wait for his grab attack for a safe opportunity to get hits in to deplete his ki to 0. You see, once a yokai boss ki is at 0 while in the Dark Realm, he will remove the Dark Realm to replenish his ki, which means no more clones, and with no clones to protect him, he went down shortly afterwards. But we all know he's not done yet. Unfortunately, when he comes back, he goes back into the Dark Realm, and my main goal was to just survive, which luckily for me, I did, because once the Dark Realm is gone, he was much easier to pound on, making the fight end shortly after that. Which means it's time to seal myself away for William to wake me up so that we can wrestle for a bit to make our bromance stronger so that we can become the ultimate power couple we were always meant to be. But my first main hoe, Tokichiro, is in trouble, so instead I have to fight Otakimaru. Otakimaru wasn't too bad this time around. I did die 4 times, but in comparison to Shibata's skill count on me of 29, that isn't much. Getting through the first phase of the 3 yokai forms wasn't too bad thanks to the first form being Phantom. In hindsight, I probably should have gone in with Brute since I find Brute the easiest out of all 3 to DPS quickly, but either way, it wasn't too difficult to get to the second phase. For final form Otakimaru, I found most of his slash attacks would launch himself over me so I could just keep the pressure while he kept whiffing. Another good time I found to get long combos in is when he does his water attack. He just stands there so it's easy to get behind him. With just that, he barely had any health left, so I just rushed in when he was making swords rain out of the sky to finish him off. And you gotta love that finisher on him at the end. Very satisfying. Upon beating Otakimaru, I unlocked the next gear rarity, Divine, which is going to be essential for beating the DLC in this run. So to craft Divine gear, you need to dismantle Divine equipment to get Divine fragments. With 10 fragments, you get to give yourself an 86% chance of getting a divine weapon or armor piece. Now, to make this gear to be +1, you can do soul matching so that the weapon you want to be +1 can be, which I did with my Yin Yang Tofas, and then remodel them to have an A in Courage. Now, there's a lot more to this than that, like Divine Armor, having Familiarity, Quality, Umber Sights for tempering, and more, but I would recommend watching a dedicated video on that if you want to understand it fully. But with that said, time for the first DLC, the Tenju's Disciple. where they have giant yokai crabs, magic casting yokai gorillas with scythes, and a jar man for a boss. That reminds me a lot of Gilgamesh from Final Fantasy. At first I thought Benki, which is his actual name, was going to be a pushover since I almost first tried him, but all he needed was to hit me twice to kill me. Then the usual thing happens after this where I go on a bit of a losing streak, dying 4 more times. I really wish I could tell you there was some big secret to beating him, but all I did was get purified off to melt his ki, and that's it. That's all I had to do twice to take him down. Afterwards, Binky teams up with me, and after spending some time with him, the jarhead grew on me. I really hope nothing bad happens to him. Binky and I part ways, and it's time for me to fight a somewhat familiar face from Nioh 1. Dealing with the boss's giant phase is really easy since all you have to do is stay close to him and smack away. But after stance breaking the flabby bastard, he jumps out into a smaller form where he goes hentai crazy with those tentacle arms and has ads to back him up. So you know how I praised Kasha's fight for being able to kill her own ads? Well, apparently Team Ninja no longer liked that idea, and now the only way for the ads to die in this fight is for me to kill them. I struggled pretty hard with this second phase with getting electrified and dealing with the crabs, that I ended up dying 10 times. For a second I thought I might be screwed, but I found a way to make the second phase easier. What you want to do is stance break the giant phase with as much health as possible. By doing this, it will force it to come out in a smaller form, but no ads will spawn since the boss is above half HP. With this, I could fight the boss normally, allowing me to DPS it past half health, and stance break it again to make it go big, and when the boss is bigger with ads, they are much easier to deal with and avoid, meaning I could wail on the blubber here until he died. Fuck this dude. Afterwards, I meet with Minamoto no Yoshitsune and team up with him, but first I take on a side mission that lets me fight a Nioh 1 boss. New is nothing new to me since I've beaten Nioh 1 and he was practically the same here, so I had no issues with him, but I do like the callback to the old boss. With that done, I equip some divine armor and accessories. Quick tip, if you want easy divine fragments, just farm revenants. They die super quick and will drop a bunch of divine armor and weapons that you can dismantle. Once done farming, I team up with Binky and Minamoto, and no, you wouldn't Team Ninja. Binky! You sons of bitches! Hell yeah, Yoshitsune! Fuck them up! Burn them all! Wait, I don't want to fight him. I'm agreeing with him. I disagree with this Team Ninja. I think Yoshitsune should just go buck wild and fuck everything up. Unfortunately, I was forced to fight Yoshitsune to calm him down. I was not so good at persuading him. I ended up dying 26 times. I found the reason I kept dying was 1, I was trying to play too aggressive, 2, this is my first time fighting this bastard, and 3, I could have had a full set of divine gear for better defense. So what I ended up having to do is play this fight super slow, kind of like if it was a Dark Souls game, which did feel weird. What I ended up having to do is stay in low stance most of the time to dodge attacks. When the boss would do his grab attack, I would dodge to the side, stance switch to high stance to do 3 quick attacks, and then run away. I did this to the point he would go into the Dark Realm. Once in the realm, I would just stay back and wait for his burst attacks. For his jumping one, it was easy to dodge because you just need to not be on the bridge to avoid most of it, and when he jumps on over at you, you just counter it. After the counter, I would attack with high stance. He has a second burst attack, which is a dash, but I messed it up most of the time. So I just waited for these 2 attacks to punish, and that's how I won. I'm not too happy with this win, but I need to practice this boss a bit more before I can actually play aggressively. Also in this DLC was a human boss, but I beat him so fast I nearly forgot about him. With DLC 1 done with, time to move on to the second one, the Darkness in the Capital, where I finally got smart and got a full set of divine equipment and equipped my new Guardian Spirit, Ho, to my secondary slot, for the fact it increases high attack damage by 4%, which helped a lot with the first boss of the DLC. Yorimitsu is basically the Nioh 3 MC because she can just use yokai abilities and could go full living weapon armor mode, which was super badass and terrifying at the same time. Good thing she is human though, or I would have been in more trouble if I wasn't using the tonfas. Thanks to the tonfas, I got her on my second try, which luckily I didn't have to reduce her HP to 0. Upon beating her, I ended up teaming up with her to fight Spider Boss from Ninja Gaiden 2. My bad, not the same boss. This guy can actually kill me. He didn't just get me once, he got me 3 more times. Until I remembered the most fundamental thing in Nioh. Blocking can be better than dodging. Once I stopped trying to dodge everything, I was actually able to get hits in and survive long enough to win. After the fights, we meet the antagonist of the DLC, Ashia, which this son of a bitch corrupts Nikomata and turns him into White Tiger. But good thing White Tiger is a pussy because he was a pushover. He had so many attacks that left him wide open to be hit that the fight was over in no time. With Nikomata recovered, I wanted revenge with the guy who fucked with my cat. Well, come to find out, Ashia is also the lightning gods of Yomi. The nice thing is, when you get to Yomi, you don't have to fight Ashia again. So for Ashia, because he's human, the same old strategy of just pressuring non-stop did the trick. For Yomi though, I had to come up with a different plan. With this boss being able to electrify me in one single hit, I had to play a lot more careful. Which had me playing similar to Yoshitsune's fight, where I would run around in low stance and switch to high stance to get strong attacks in. The good thing about this fight is that I had way more openings in this fight. The attacks I would look out for were her lightning orb attacks, because after they launch you could just run around them. After she does any of her claw combos is a good time to get hits in, and the most trickiest one was after her lightning row attack. This one I fucked up a lot, to the point it ruined multiple winning attempts. Two more important things were to make sure at all costs to get rid of the yokai puddle so that she doesn't regenerate ki, and playing aggressively once she is out of the dark realm, since that is when she is the easiest to stance break and get a lot of damage off. This all sounds super easy, but it ended up taking me 27 attempts before I was able to pull it off. Definitely one of the most heart-pounding fights in this entire run, and I'm happy to be done with it. Oh dear god, is that a Hayabusa? And now I'm being Azuna dropped. Lovely. Rin was pretty damn challenging. He got me 10 times and probably would have been more than that if it wasn't for the case when you burst counter humans, they get a key recovery penalty, which made grappling / stun locking him much easier. Honestly, if it wasn't for the Tonfas, I probably would have died a lot more than I did. With beating a Hayabusa, I felt ready for the third DLC, the First Samurai, which off the bat has me fighting Otakimaru, who has been hitting the roids because he's definitely bigger than the last one I fought. For those wondering what's going on story-wise with the DLC is that the player has been sent back in time to help out. Also, the third DLC is not playing around with boss damage. The bosses for the most part all have been two-shotting me, but the third DLC gets very close to one-shotting me at times. So the first Samurai Otakimaru is similar to the one you fight in base game, but he has 3 new elemental burst attacks, got a lot of thrust attacks, and is a lot better at landing hits, leading me to die 11 times. The saving grace to this fight is that you don't have to lower his HP to 0 to win, which thank god, because if I had to, I would have probably been screwed. After the fights, I meet a younger version of my mother and come to find out Otakimaru is the MC's uncle. So I have to meet up with my mom to fight a new mutated yokai creatures, to the point of fighting a giant titty model yokai in heels with a scythe for a weapon. Team Ninja knew they could add one more big titty monster in, with it being the final DLC. Tate Iboshi is a super fun fight. As fast as she can move with a large weapon, her moves are very well telegraphed. Like, I knew when she was attacking, but sometimes I just couldn't respond in time, which had me super excited to figure out the timings for it. Something I learned during my 8 attempts is that it's actually best to stay close on top of her, and it ain't just for the view. Most of her scythe attacks can be avoided when being up close to the right hand side, which is how I got most of my openings to get damage in. Also, she has one of the sickest grab attacks in the entire game, and I have to show it off. She definitely gives off that muscle mummy vibes with that foot stomp at the very end. I'll be honest with y'all, I did win by sheer fucking luck. On my winning attempt, I was only 1 hit away from death, and the boss was only a few hits away from dying. So I went for a gamble move, and she jumped in the air, making me think I just fucked this up. But by some miracle, as y'all can see in slow motion, I was attacking at the time, and right as she comes down on me, she gets hit by my Tonfas, killing her before her attack can land on me. And in Nioh, when a boss dies, the player won't receive any damage afterwards. To say I was dumbfounded would be an understatement, but I'm just happy I won. After that once-in-a-lifetime victory, I finally decided to change out my Yin Yang Tonfas for the Pagoda Tonfas, since they have purity imbued on them. Y'all probably noticed already, but I really haven't been focusing on water damage, so before the final fights I changed these up and even got the Trident Helmet, which will increase my damage upon purification. While tempering my tonfas, I got the rare effect Tonfa Gun, which means after special attacks, if I press square on triangle again, the tonfas will do a shotgun blast, which is just fucking cool. With now having Tonfa Guns, I was ready to face my uncle Atakimaru, who decided to go Kingdom Hearts final form Ansem on my ass, and oh boy was this son of a bitch a doozy. Not on par with Shibata or Yoshitsune or even Yomi, but he still put up a darn good fight. I debated on not showing this whole fight, but with it only being 2 minutes long, why not show it off? Enjoy. Man, talk about a run. I really enjoy learning the tonfas and getting mediocre at them. I love how, depending on which weapon you are using, it changes up the fight so much. It makes each run feel new and refreshing. I'm looking forward to trying out the other weapons. With all that said, if you enjoyed this video and would like to see more like it, hit that subscribe button. At this time, I would also like to thank my channel supporters. If you too would like to support the channel or have your name in the video, you can click the Patreon link in the description or click the YouTube join button. I also from time to time stream my runs, so you can catch me streaming on YouTube or over on Twitch at Arcane Gaming. I want to thank you all for watching, and until next time, take care.